Good morning. Uh,
Morning.
This is fantastic. I really want to know about mushrooms, and you've written lots of papers, articles,
With a few more to come.
and just basically mushrooms are important because of the nitrogen they convert. Is that right?
Yeah, so mushrooms are a good natural source of nitrogen or protein that's not derived from meat. And they're also a little powerhouse of nutrients. So they also, if you put them in the sun, they actually convert the UV into vitamin D. So mushrooms have this compound in them called ergosterol, and that turns into vitamin D. And it's one of the only natural sources of vitamin D that you can get from food.
Very interesting. Nobody knew. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're really good. And they're also a really good source of dietary fiber as well.
Interesting. Um, and you did wrote a paper on the button mushroom compost. What did you
Yep.
find?
So I am a microbiologist at the University of Sydney, and I did a lot of research on the microbiology in the substrate that button mushrooms grow on. And the idea was to see if we could identify what microbes are in there and also identify which ones are the good guys and which ones are the not so good guys. I wouldn't say bad guys, just the ones that are not as helpful to growing mushrooms. And we found a lot of useful data. There are a lot of useful bacteria in these growth substrate that do help our mushrooms grow faster. Um, and at the moment, we're still working on getting a database of all of that sorted and made available for our industry people. Yeah, that's fine.
Welcome to the interview, Dr. Megan Tai. And you're a university, you're at University of Sydney, a lecturer there in mycology.
So I'm a postdoctoral research associate in microbiology, environmental microbiology.
So not just mushrooms, you're covering other organisms.
Yes,
Fun
I do.
so fungi covers mushrooms and other things.
Yes, mushrooms, molds, yeasts.
Amazing.
Uh,
And so that yeast, that's another whole issue, isn't it? So mushrooms itself. So there's cooking mushrooms, wild mushrooms. What's the world of mushrooms, basically? What are the categories?
so there are edible mushrooms and non-edible mushrooms. The edible mushrooms are the mushrooms that you find in store, and they're grown commercially. So all of your button mushrooms, the Swiss brown mushrooms, shiitake, oyster mushrooms, anything that you can get in a store, they're safe to eat and they are produced commercially under um, strict guidelines. And
Guidelines.
any
These guidelines, they can't just be grown in somebody's backyard. They're farmed.
No, they're farm. Yeah, yeah, they're grown on a farm.
Have you gone out to any of these farms?
Absolutely. I've worked at Premier Mushrooms in Glossodia and also Elf Mushrooms in Mulgrave. And I've also gone out to several other farms across Australia.
Amazing. That's a privilege. That's really,
Mhm.
really good. That was so exciting. But with all these mushroom varieties, there's still varieties that haven't been found and grown commercially that we can eat, or is that all that we can eat?
So I wouldn't recommend anyone to go foraging for wild mushrooms in Australia. Like all things in Australia, wild things tend to be dangerous. Um, I would only recommend foraging for people who are with an expert or if you are an expert.
Hmm.
And even experts themselves, they will won't eat mushrooms or any foraged mushrooms unless they are absolutely certain that it is safe to eat.
Yes, we've got so many varieties in our supermarkets, grocery stores, but
Yeah.
yet people have like to go and like hunting. They want to go and do it like the olden way, but there
Yeah.
are pitfalls.
Yeah. So, in Australia, because we don't have as many mushroom experts as we would like here in Australia, it's hard to go foraging for any mushrooms. Not like in Europe where they actually have uh, when you go foraging, people will actually pick their mushrooms, take it to a facility where they'll have a mushroom expert there. And the mushroom expert will be able to identify which ones are safe to eat and which ones aren't. And even then, they'll say because the ones that are safe to eat, because they've been next to the ones that aren't safe to eat, don't eat them now. Make sure that you wash them properly and cook them. And so even then, in Europe, they still they don't eat mushrooms unless again they're certain that they are safe to eat.
So is it controlled here in Australia? Do you see people licensed that are experts as called experts? Are they licensed?
Yeah, they are. Yes.
Now
So
how do they get
a
this
few.
license?
I I'm not too sure on that. There are a few foraging company or um companies groups that um you can go foraging with. But again, they only go to very specific areas where they know um, these edible mushrooms are able to be foraged.
I've heard of people going foraging and on their own, which is really, really dangerous.
I have heard of people going foraging on their own. I do not recommend it at all. It
And this
is
is
very
coming from a
dangerous.
mushroom expert. So what makes the mushroom very toxic, some of these mushrooms?
It depends. So some mushrooms, like Amanita phalloides, they well, commonly known as the death cap, as we all know, they produce toxins that are dangerous from every stage of life. So from when it's a little spore all the way up until it becomes a mushroom, it produces this toxin. Other mushrooms, they produce a compound called phenol, which is actually quite toxic to humans.
So it
So,
gets into the bloodstream and goes to your brain, or what happens?
it gets into your digestive system and it really causes sensitive issues in your stomach and nausea and yeah.
So,
In with the Amanita phalloides, the death cap, that actually produces a toxin that is um that will kill you.
that's so sad. How many years has mushrooms been in Australia?
Oh, uh, I mean, a very long time. The commercial mushroom industry, I believe, has been in Australia since 1920s, maybe 1930s.
Oh, really? How did that start? Was it the button mushroom?
Yeah, so the button mushroom was the first commercial mushroom grown in Australia, yes. And that was started by a few farmers who enjoyed mushrooms and they found some chicken manure and some straw, put it into a pile, and then lo and behold, some mushrooms started growing and they
Oh,
started
okay.
taking.
The backyard people are growing mushrooms, button mushrooms.
No. So button mushrooms are grown on highly specific substrate that can only be uh, sourced from a commercial compost yard, and it goes through a very industrial process to make. So you can't use regular garden compost to grow button mushrooms, but you can grow oyster mushrooms and lion's mane from kits that you can buy at shops. And these are generally grown on sawdust and wheat straw.
Do you grow mushrooms, Dr.
I
Megan?
do.
Wow.
I absolutely do.
Yes. And
Yeah,
what's your
so
favorite? Yeah, what's your favorite mushroom?
My favorite mushroom is the shiitake mushroom, and also the button mushroom.
Right. And how many cases of poisoning have there been in this last year with mushrooms?
Ooh. Other than the known case at the moment, I haven't heard of any, but generally we usually get 1 to 2 a year.
So
Um,
1 to 2 a year, would they be because of foraging?
yeah, so it's because people have gone out to go pick mushrooms and not talk to an expert. Um, and it's okay to go. So I like to do an activity called foraying, where I will go out and look at mushrooms and take photos of them. I'll bring a little handheld mirror so I can actually have a look at the mushroom itself, the whole mushroom itself, without actually touching it. Um,
Do you organize
but I
groups like
never
that?
pick them.
Would you go? Do you organize groups for the university?
I don't, but there are groups that do these foraying activities. Definitely, yes.
Dr. Megan, what are the main threats for the mushroom industry?
Uh for the Australian mushroom industry, when you're buying mushrooms from the shops that are grown commercially, there are no threats. Um, but the main threats to the industries are imported mushrooms where they have foodborne pathogens on them, like listeria, and also people who forage mushrooms as well and they get poisoned from these mushrooms that can cause a. But in terms of mushroom production itself, uh, it is a highly regulated and safe process.
And Dr. Megan, the main importance of mushrooms with terms of nitrogen, and you were saying other things that were important about mushrooms.
Yeah. So mushrooms are a little powerhouse of food. So if you leave them out in the sun, they convert the UV into vitamin D because they have this compound called ergosterol in them. They're also really high in dietary fiber and also beta glucan. So it does help with cholesterol as well, lowering cholesterol.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are there teams doing research into that?
We are currently, I believe so, yes. I do know of one researcher at the moment who is looking into the um, dietary factors of mushrooms.
So you're in a team that's researching on a certain topic about mushrooms?
Yeah, so I mainly focus on the growing side of things. So, how the mushrooms are grown, um, what is supporting their growth, and how can we make them grow more efficiently?
How long does it take? What's the how many days does it take a mushroom to grow?
So to make the compost, the growth substrate, it takes anywhere from 20, I would say about 25 days to 40 days.
That's a long time.
Depends on the um technique they're using. And then from there to when it gets to the farm and uh picking their first mushroom, it's about 19 days, 14 to 19 days.
So you're doing research into speeding this process up naturally?
Yeah, so we're using the microbiome, the native microbiome in the compost and enhancing the good bacteria. Sort of like a probiotic for your gut. It's a probiotic for the growth substrate.
Amazing. And what is the research happening around the world? Is there different research happening?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different research happening. So in the US, we have some research groups focusing on flies that are pathogens or can carry pathogens with mushroom production. So, how do we reduce that fly population to protect our mushroom crop? We also have a project in Melbourne at the moment who's studying viruses that infect mushrooms, which is a rather difficult project, I would say. Hoping to hear more on that soon. What else do we work on? In Europe, we also have a group at the moment who's looking at alternatives to using peat, which is a low nutrient layer that we add on top of our compost to induce mushrooms to fruit.
They research into enhancing the nutritional value of mushrooms, like with biotechnology, adding protein, more protein, anything like that? Vitamins, adding more vitamins?
Not yet. We do have currently a PhD student who is working on adding fatty acids into the compost to help with speeding up the composting process. And hopefully we will have a student who is going to be starting with us soon, maybe working on bioavailable nutrients, and adding that and having the mushroom uptake those bioavailable nutrients.
Looks like there's a huge field for the new generation to discover and to develop in such an ancient agricultural product.
Yeah, it's absolutely fun, and it's a fun time to be in mushroom research right now.
It sounds like it. And and Sydney University, are they leading the field in this kind of research?
I would say it's a joint effort between Sydney University, the Australian Mushroom Growers Association, Horticulture Innovation Australia, as well as around the world with our collaborators over at Pennsylvania State University and also Chuggas in Ireland.
Mm. So hopefully there's going to be more positive news about mushrooms coming soon. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and more varieties that we can eat. There's so many. How many varieties are there that we can eat?
So many. Lion's mane, king oyster, pearl oyster, yellow oyster, pink oyster, shiitake, shimeji. There's so many.
Is it
Button mushroom.
are they originating from Japan, most of these?
Um, no, I believe shiitake, yes. But most of these mushrooms that we have in the shop are grown here in Australia.
Right. And the history of the mushrooms, where did they first start? Like was it in Europe they came over?
In Europe,
Okay.
yeah, in Europe.
So the industry is much more established there.
Yes, yeah. But we have a very good industry in Australia, very close knit.
Yeah. And which state or territory is leading in mushroom growing?
I'm not sure actually.
You've done a lot of the farms. Are they very well established in Western Australia, for example?
They do have their own farm over there. Yes, they do. Haven't had a chance to actually go over there to see their facilities. I would love to go over there one day. But it is pretty equal between New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia.
And what about Tasmania? Are they big mushroom growers there?
They had a farm down there. Unfortunately, it has shut down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting. But Queensland, not the Queensland.
Queensland, yes. Queensland does have a farm. Yeah, several farms.
Yeah, the mushroom appetite for Australia is bigger here.
Yes, it's definitely bigger in the southeast states of Australia.
Yeah, it's a cuisine. It's an art form on a plate, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. They're so good though.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting to see the developments that are going to come from Sydney University and all the papers that you're going to be writing and researching. Maybe there's a new mushroom variety that we don't know about yet.
At the moment, I've got a research project looking at caffeine degradation in oyster mushroom production. So I've grown my oyster mushrooms on caffeine waste. So we're using spent coffee grounds and also coffee silver skin, which is like the husk that comes off when you roast green coffee beans. And that itself naturally has a lot of caffeine, which also has a lot of nitrogen in it. And the mushrooms use that caffeine to grow.
That's
And they also take up a little bit of that
I have heard
caffeine.
that caffeine waste from the industry is a huge waste. It's a huge waste.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you have used it for mushroom to grow mushrooms.
Yep. Yep. So mushrooms are really good at circularizing the economy. And taking waste products and turning it into something valuable.
This is huge. This is
Yeah.
huge. You heard it
Yes.
here, listeners. This is a fantastic because there's a problem and there's a solution, and the mushroom has solved it. The
Yes.
humble mushroom.
The
So,
humble mushroom.
so how did this come about? This connection with coffee waste. What were you
So
thinking?
we've had a previous student work on caffeine uptake in oyster mushrooms before. And she found that when she grew her mushrooms on spent coffee grounds, it did take up some of the caffeine into the mushroom itself. You'd unfortunately have to eat about 20 kilos of oyster mushrooms to get the equivalent of 1 cup of coffee. So can't get your daily coffee from one mushroom yet. But she also found that the caffeine was actually breaking down into smaller products, or like the caffeine derivatives, breaking it down and turning it into a simple sugar. Yeah, so
Really interesting. I
um
think this is a best for the world.
no, not quite first for the world, but it is first looking at the microbial ecology in that growth substrate to look at how these organisms are doing that. Yeah.
Very exciting. Must be very, very exciting every day to work in this field.
Yeah, it is. I love it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Megan Tai from Sydney University, microbiology expert into mushrooms. And I look forward to having you on the program again next year.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll look at your LinkedIn.
Yes.
It should be there. Is it under Dr. Megan Tai?
It would just be under Meghan tie. Yeah. The
Okay.
other thing is that we do have a mushrooms. So the Australian Mushroom Growers Association has started a mushrooms in schools program where primary schools
Yes.
can sign up, and they get in term 3 they get a mushroom kit, and the teachers can actually grow mushrooms, and we teach primary school age kids everything about mushrooms and how they
That's
grow. And
Sydney. Is it on the part of Sydney? I'll just Google it. What uh,
it's just mushrooms in schools.
mushrooms in
Yeah.
school? That's run
Yeah,
by.
it's
Yeah,
Australian Mushroom Growers Association. Yeah.
wonderful. That's really great. That's a great initiative.
Yes. Yeah.
Teaching the
Yeah.
kids. Yeah, it is. It is something so small, and in the environment that people just walk over,
Yeah.
but it can do great things to the food chain.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.